There were times where we were questioning how it would all come together.
A little bit of stress. And,
Just a little bit.
But that's a good lesson for people. You guys were able to really create something, it was almost like a custom house, right?
Yeah.
Without it being a custom.
the finished product is worth it, though, is it not?
What a gorgeous house it is.
Mark, welcome to the show.
Because we knew exactly what we wanted, we found that our search criteria was extremely narrow. When I started going through all the criteria, I had the realization that it's a really small market that we're looking
You'll
for.
get like 30 homes, hopefully.
Exactly. Of course, the market then was kind of like it is now, right? Where there was not a lot of inventory and there was a lot more buyers than sellers. And so you had to be prepared and you had to be willing to do something a little bit outside of the box.
This is a journey that a lot of people go on. It's right. How do you make that decision from this family home that's brought all these wonderful memories to making the big decision to move? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Seattle Living and Wealth Building Podcast. I am incredibly excited about today's episode. This is a first for the podcast, which is we are at a dear friend and a longtime colleague's house. So often you see us elsewhere, but today we're actually at the finished product.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Mark's journey from a longtime home that they lived in, 25 plus years?
29.
29 years, and their journey to this fabulous, beautiful home here in WREG. So we have the usual suspects. Michael Dapper.
Hello.
Justin Day. And Mark, who I've known from a time when people will ask, okay, what company dominates downtown Seattle? And I bet you're not going to guess. It's not Amazon. It's Washington Mutual Bank. So that's how long I've known Mark. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Maynard. Yeah, it's great to have you guys here. And great to have you here for the culmination of this very long process.
Yes. It's the finished product is worth it, though, is it not?
What a gorgeous house it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Stunning, for sure.
There were times where we were questioning how it would all come together, but in the end, we're super happy. We're super happy with how it all turned out.
I mean, so here we are in the living room. I think it's going to be very relatable, right? Because this is a journey that a lot of people go on. It's right. How do you make that decision from this family home that's brought all these wonderful memories to making the big decision to move and all the thought process going that? So maybe walk us through that and give us a little flavor for what that was like.
Sure. Well, we have one daughter, and she graduated from high school in 2016. And of course, as that graduation date approaches, you start to think about what life's going to look like as an empty nester. And we always thought that might be a time where we make a move. Of course, at the time, we were thinking we would downsize. That did not happen. So that was kind of the beginning. After Caroline graduated from high school, she went to school in Washington, D.C., so she was on the other side of the country. And so that's when the time we started thinking about it. But before we made any big decisions, we kind of wanted to try empty nesterhood out a little bit to see what our lifestyle was like after as empty nesters. And so we weren't in necessarily a hurry to make a decision. Other things that kind of prompted the decision is we lived in Wedgwood near a very busy intersection. And so noise kind of became a factor. They put in a bakery right behind us. Great bakery, really nice, really good smells.
Yeah.
But also a lot of people attracted a big crowd coming and going. So noise was a factor. And then we also wanted a view. And so we were able to check that box here. Mm-hmm. And also just we found ourselves being able to entertain a little bit differently as empty nesters. And so having a little bit more space, a large table where we could accommodate the entire family or close friends, were all things that we were looking for that were kind of difficult in our old place. So those were kind of the factors that caused us to start to look at something else other than where we were.
Yeah. Like a new chapter, right?
A new chapter
in your
for
life.
sure.
Yeah. And a whole new book.
Yes, right.
Actually, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and that's the same as any person who's going through the real estate journey. They have to have a reason for wanting to move, right?
Right.
And so for you guys, it was clearly, the empty nester lifestyle. And I love how you guys took that time to enjoy the empty nester lifestyle in your existing house.
Exactly.
To be able to kind of figure out exactly what you want that future house to look like before you made that change.
Correct.
I can only imagine the amount of people who just say, hey, I'm an empty nester now, I'm going to do something completely different, and they end up not being very pleased with the decision they made.
Exactly. And I think had we done that at the time, we probably would have rushed into a downtown condo. That was kind of the hot thing at the time. And we actually looked at a couple, but I think that waiting allowed us to kind of find what was right for us. And we're happy with the decision. I think at that time did allow us to make a better decision.
Yeah. I mean, it's not saying that you wouldn't have been happy with the downtown
Correct.
condo.
That's not saying that at all. Absolutely.
You would have made a good
Absolutely.
choice, I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
Right?
But it's amazing though when
Exactly.
people go through their home buying journey, I guess a better way of putting it, that you guys had that kind of in your mindset, right? You had the idea that, hey, this is what we're wanting to do in our empty nester years, and then all of a sudden you realize, no, we really love the area that we live in.
Correct.
We don't want to go that far away from it.
Yeah.
You can certainly have a view in a lot of different places, but I mean, I love working with buyers just simply because of the fact that their journeys change so much along the way. And yours is no different, of course.
For sure. And I think, and again, nothing against downtown condos.
We love it downtown.
Yeah.
But, Maynard, you took us around different parts of the city. And, I think as we considered those other locations, I think we realized for us, we liked Northeast Seattle. We have a lot of friends here. We've been here in the area for a long time, and familiar restaurants and whatnot. So just staying in Northeast Seattle for us, spending that 2 years confirmed that this is the right neighborhood for us.
Yeah, so a couple of years, and I'm sure your friends are pretty damn happy you stayed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially coming and hanging out
You got
here.
this place that is checking all of your boxes for entertaining.
For sure. And a lot of my friends are like yourself, big UW fans. So it was a perfect season to kick in, break in the new place. So yes, we had multiple parties here where a lot of fun was had because we were on the right side of the equation, and we were down in Houston for the loss. So yeah.
So that's interesting. So you had this idea, okay, we're gonna be empty nesters. That means we get the opportunity to move downtown now, which we haven't had since we don't have our child living with us anymore. We're gonna live this downtown lifestyle. And you figure out, actually, we kind of want to just stay kind of around where you're living, but upgrade your lifestyle, right? So, what was that change that you kind of had the realization with yourself and your wife that, okay, we want to maybe find a house, that is more suitable than the one that you had?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it kind of came down to the criteria, right? Some of the things that were prompting the decision to move, like the noise. So, right, okay, if you don't want noise, you got to go somewhere where it's quiet.
Yeah.
Right. And the view, right? So you look at the places where there's a view. And then, of course, figuring out the location, price is a factor. There's different price points in different neighborhoods. And then the house itself and the space and fitting everything we need, that's a consideration. And as we really took all of those things into consideration, because we knew exactly what we wanted at what price, we found that our search criteria was extremely narrow, to the point where it was from 65th to 75th on either 51st or 52nd, right? So it was I think when I started going through all the criteria, I had the realization that it's a really small market that we're looking for.
Get like 30 homes, hopefully.
Exactly. I had that realization kind of early on. And then, so that's where we started focusing on our walks. Like we just, it's a pretty limited sample set, right? So we can kind of get an idea of what houses are available so that if we do see something that comes on the market, we'll be ready. And so it's kind of those considerations. And of course, the market then was kind of like it is now, right? Where There was not a lot of inventory, and there was a lot more buyers than sellers, and so you had to be prepared, and you had to, be willing to do something a little bit outside of the box in order to be the first one to have the winning bid, right? And so making an offer on a house that was just framed, right, was something a little out of the box that allowed us to kind of get everything we were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, that's good recognition and advice for anybody in a market where there's like low inventory, right?
Yeah.
You have to think outside the box. You did some additional steps to really kind of prepare yourself, right, to be competitive
Right.
in that market. Can you share that? Because I think, a lot of people don't know maybe what some of the options are to help them be in a more competitive position.
Yeah, I mean, I think knowing the market, having the financing all arranged, and again knowing what you want, those were all things that we did, so that when we saw these places under construction, and it just became kind of an easy decision. We knew exactly what we wanted, and this place checked all of those boxes. We had the financing kind of figured out. And so literally a couple hours after we had first, I think it was you, Justin, that we looked at this place while it was under construction. And then it was a couple hours later where we were making the offer. So we were ready to go.
We moved quick for sure.
Yeah, we moved really fast.
Yeah. I mean, that's good advice for our audience, because a lot of them don't necessarily understand why they need to take those steps to really drill down and figure out what they're looking for, right? Try to have the neighborhoods lined up, and they don't understand always why it's necessary to get pre-approved.
Right.
And even if they get pre-approved, maybe they don't take it to the full step of, getting full underwriting approval, and they don't take it to that next step of knowing, okay, how much more could I afford in the event I get into a bidding war, right? So
Right.
that advice of the more you prepare, right, the better off you'll be is completely holds true.
Well, especially when you have a very narrow focus.
Yeah,
When the opportunities are very limited, and so when something comes up, you need to make that very quick decision. You can't do that if you're not prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that the financial preparation, but then also like you said, knowing what you want. I mean,
Right.
you could be all financially sound and get everything lined up, and then a good opportunity comes up and you don't even know what you're looking at because you haven't done that deep dive into, okay, what is going to be the right answer for me,
Right.
so.
Well, we've all worked with many buyers who have done that exact same thing, where they've, had an idea in their head of what they want.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you go on a few tours with them and they're like, well, maybe we'll go with this instead. And then they go on a few more tours and like, oh, let's do this. And next thing you know, it's a completely different search criteria than what they were looking at originally.
Exactly.
It's the journey, right?
Yeah.
It's
Another factor in that market was, we knew it might be tough, having an offer accepted. And so we knew we wanted to secure a new place before we sold our old house, right? So that complicated the financing a little bit, but we had a plan and we had everything in place to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, that was helpful to be able to kind of move and buy, but
Right.
still have the plan that you were going to sell your house.
Exactly.
Right? And there's lots of different options for that are out there that a lot of people don't necessarily explore.
Correct.
So the process was a winning process, right? And
Yes.
you ended up where you wanted to be. Was it easy for you and Gwen to sort through the conversations and make the decisions? Peel that back a little bit, and if you don't mind,
Yeah.
sharing how, some of the things that people might resonate with, right? The challenges that you have in making such a move and making these decisions.
Yeah. Well, we had been at our last place for 29 years. The original plan was we'd be there for 5 years. We started looking at 5 years. Ironically, this was View Ridge was our target neighborhood at the time. But what we were looking at is, at our price point, we were looking at buying a place and then having to do a major renovation, right? And so we just decided, ultimately, let's just renovate our own home. And so we did an upstairs addition, and put a lot of time and energy and effort. We hired an architect, and we hired a contractor. And it was really collaborative work with the architect, and took a lot of time to really think about what we wanted in the place, from the design, the indoor-outdoor connections, the color schemes, just the style. And we put a lot into that process. And then we lived in that home. We were very happy with the way it turned out. And it was the only home our daughter ever knew. She lived there her entire life. And so there's an attachment that forms when you've lived at a place. It's almost like a part of the family itself, and so many memories there. And that becomes difficult. It was difficult for all of us, and especially our daughter, who is going through a lot of change. She's at college. She's living in a new city. But when she comes back, being able to come back to something that she knows and that's familiar, right? That not having that, and the idea that she may not have that, was hard. And, took a lot of time for all of us to process.
Yeah. Well, especially when you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into creating this home into what you actually wanted for 29 years. I mean, I can understand how tear-jerking hard that must be, right?
Yeah.
So
it was, yes. And tears do shed when the old house shows up in the camera roll.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
And you see the
memories.
Yeah,
Literally.
But
what's the biggest memory you hold on to, or is it, if you can name one?
I think it's just friends and family in the summertime. Having a barbecue, and the doors. We had very connected spaces indoor. We had a deck off the south. We had a front patio off the west side. The doors were always open. People were coming inside, outside, grilling, drinking, just having fun and hanging out. Whether it's the family. Or whether it's just a group of friends, watching games, Christmas time, of course.
That all sounds fantastic, but I really like that idea in this house too. Like, this looks.
It worked there. Now we have an eastern view, water view, lake view.
Yeah.
A little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger. Yeah. We got a table big enough to put the whole extended family around.
That's
so
awesome.
We had 14 people at Thanksgiving, and there's an outdoor kitchen in the yard. So for those of you who remember, Thanksgiving was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
So I actually spatchcocked a turkey. I was outside cooking on the grill on Thanksgiving Day.
That's awesome.
Smoked the turkey. It turned out great.
Yeah.
And again, friends come over to watch the games, and we put it for the big games where there's a bigger crowd. We put a TV up there, and then the main TV's downstairs. So we had 2 levels of viewing.
So nice.
So you're already starting to kind of create some new memories.
Correct.
Here. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that custom piece of art doesn't turn into a TV?
No, it doesn't
That
turn
would have
into
been
a
cool.
It's like I press this button right here.
That's the next upgrade.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Oh, man. That's awesome. So you went through a remodel at your first place, right? And I know you have a home over in Seabrook as well that you were really involved in the design process, and then you were also involved in that. Is that a pretty easy process? Do you just provide your checklist of items and the builder executes on them?
Yeah, it's pretty much how it works, man. That's how it works.
Yeah.
No, it's a lot of work. And I think that's probably intuitive, but then whatever you think the amount of work is going to be, it's always more, right? It's always more. It's quite a process. But, it's like anything, you get out of it what you put into it. And certainly all 3 times that we've done it with the remodel, and then the place out at Seabrook was new construction, and then this place was new construction. It's all the effort that we put in paid dividends in terms of the result. We're happy with the way everything turned out.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. It feels really good when you walk in here. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're living it every day. I was talking to Gwen about her favorite item about the house piece, and she said, actually just sitting out here and just reading.
Yeah.
Right? You got all this light. It's a very comfortable space. It's warm. So what's your favorite?
My favorite, I love the outdoor kitchen. And I've been using it in the wintertime too. It's just a great gathering space, and there's a bar there with bar stools and tables, and I love being outside. I like grilling. And so I've got some new equipment, a smoker that I've never had before that I'm experimenting with. So
Nice.
I love that. And we still have the view from the main level, so you can take in the view as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys were fortunate, obviously, in finding this place early on in the construction process as
Right.
well, because that's something that, the large majority of people don't get the opportunity to do.
Correct.
You see homes get built,
Right.
and then they go on the market.
Right.
This place, we were able to get under contract when it was still studs,
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't even on the
Yeah.
market.
Exactly. And so, that was fortunate for you guys to be able to go through that process of making changes and alterations to the place.
Correct.
I mean, to kind of further Maynard's question, I mean, obviously there were some challenges along the way, but, was that a rewarding experience to know that you guys were able to, really create something that was almost like a custom house,
Right.
In
Yeah.
some
Right.
respects, right?
Yeah.
Without it being a custom.
Turned out to
Yeah.
be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it is kind of a semi-custom house, right? And when we did the first remodel, right, we're thinking long term and thinking about what's going to make us happy, and having the space reflect who we are and the style was super important. So being able to put those touches into it, and given the time where we did go under contract, that opportunity was available to us. We're very pleased with that, because we got to make it reflect who we are. But of course, it comes with a lot of work and a lot of coordination.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
A little
actually,
bit of stress. And,
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
but that's a good lesson for people, because I mean, when you guys went through this process, yes, the basic footprint of the house and the
Right.
floor plan was kind of, for the most part set.
Right.
You made a lot of alterations to it, but just imagine the process if you were designing the entire house itself.
Correct.
To figuring out where everything's going, working with both the architect, with the builder. I mean, you did for your
Yes.
remodel, of
Right.
course, but when you're doing it for a new construction place, it's a completely different situation.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't tell you how many people that we speak to on a, monthly basis where, they want to buy a house, and they're like, well, maybe I should buy a piece of land and then build a house. It's like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
let me have you speak to my friend Mark here, and he'll give you a little advice on what that looks like. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, decision fatigue definitely sets
yeah.
in
I bet.
when the architect calls you and says, "Well, I've got an important question from you. When you pull open the cabinets, do you want them to swing this way, or do you want them to swing this way?" And it's like, Kevin, I really don't care.
Yeah, like, just
Yeah.
which one's better?
Just go with
Yeah,
it.
go with the better one.
You can make that decision. Yeah. So thousands of decisions,
Oh my
and
God.
decision fatigue sets in, and try to figure out, okay, which of the decisions are worthwhile, investing the time in, and which ones are not. Right. Like,
Do I want to wake up in the middle of the night going, oh, it should have been that one?
Yeah.
Am I going to regret that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same with anything in life. I mean, even for us as business owners, I mean, there's certain things that we need to put our time and effort into, and there's other things that, we can assume that others are going to take care of for us. So,
Right.
Yeah.
it's
And in the end, it's kind of funny what you sometimes sweated over was no
Right.
big deal,
Yeah.
and then sometimes you didn't really consider it or think of it.
Yeah.
Big. It is, right?
Right.
So you never really know until you get into this.
you may make the wrong decisions the whole time anyway, so you might as well let someone else figure it out for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is just such a good subject because, again, for the audience, a lot of people want to, in Seattle where we have finite amounts of land, a lot of the houses are being torn down and rebuilt, right? If I can think of maybe 2-3 things to watch out for, I'd love for you to add on to this is, one, it's building your own house is likely going to take much longer than you expected,
Right, yeah.
right? 2, whatever cost budget you have, you better have 30 to 50% more,
sure, yeah.
right? Is that realistic?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think a third piece of advice is if you're working with an architect and a builder, make sure that they're in sync and aligned.
Absolutely.
I've had clients where there is just big disagreements between the architect and the builder, and so all that extra time the architect is spending frustrated with you.
Right.
They're charging you one of my clients every 10 minutes they
Right.
pick up the phone. So every time they get a phone call from the architect, they're just seeing dollar signs going out the door.
Yeah. we received that advice, and then we promptly did not follow it. But it's really tempting to, right? Because the reason you hire an architect, right, is for their creativity, right? To bring a different style, a different design, and really be in touch with what you're looking for. And then in a builder and a contractor, you want something completely different, right? You want somebody reliable, somebody dependable, somebody that's going to get the job done. And so those are kind of different skill sets. And so we said, no, we're going to find the most creative person, and then we're going to find the most practical person. Surprise! Surprise!
Yeah,
But that's
worlds
why
collide there.
Yeah, worlds definitely did collide.
That's why design build companies do such a great job with remodels, because you know they have all of that in house.
Right.
You know, I can speak from my own personal experience. The amount of design build companies that are used for massive kitchen and bathroom remodels is far superior to finding your own architect and finding your own contractor. Because to your point, you can't find really the best of both of them unless they really have a cohesive relationship that works well together.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. I think another consideration too is, you know, you think about their qualifications, their credentials, you check references, but it's also, it's a team, right? Which is why having people that are familiar with one another is important, that know each other, trust each other. But, you know, it's another decision for the homeowner who's remodeling or building, right? Like making that a part of the selection criteria, you know, how are the styles? Do they align? Is this a personality I can work with? Do we mesh or do we not? Because it's a team effort, and you're going to hit some bumps in the road, and you better have people around you that you work well with to get through those.
Yeah. It's easier said than done. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
For sure.
There's like a template to follow. Did you ever consider leaving Seattle? Just curious why you decided to stay here, and what your thoughts are in this time when, you know, I don't know, there's lots of people moving all over the place, right? What is it about Seattle that kept you here?
Yeah, there was a thought there. I mean, it's, you know, we wanted to test empty nesterhood for a couple of years before we made our decision. But then we got like, well, our daughter's going to be graduating from college in a couple more years. And so that was a little bit of a consideration. Where does she end up? She's going to school in Washington, D.C. Does she come back to Seattle? Does she stay in D.C.? Does she go somewhere else? She ended up staying in D.C. So we did give some thought to, you know, would we leave Seattle? Would we move closer to where she was? But in the end, you know, our roots are just so deep here, and we have so many friends. And my side of the family is all here in the Seattle area as well. The connection to the University of Washington and going to the games with friends and all those things, you know, were too hard to let go of in the end. And so we decided to stay in Seattle.
Yeah.
But we did give that some thought. And that was part of the waiting process too, was just part of the discernment and seeing where Caroline was gonna land.
Yeah. Well,
so with this place specifically, I mean, obviously you're still working and you know, you're now empty nesters, and this is kind of your perfect situation. Are you envisioning this to be a long-term home for you guys? And
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think definitely. You know, the plan was 5 years in the old house, but when we remodeled and did the upstairs addition, we knew we were in it for the long haul. We put so much work into it. We wanted to get that return over a long period of time, and we very much have the same mindset today. And one thing we haven't mentioned, this was not a part of the decision criteria, but this house actually happened to have an attached dwelling unit. So there's a separate apartment downstairs. And my mother was living in a similar situation, but in an older house in West Seattle. And so again, it wasn't part of the criteria, but then as we started to think about, you know, parents getting older and having them closer by so that when things come up, you know, you can keep a close eye on them. So my mom lives downstairs as well, and awesome. She's loving it. We love having her here. It's working out really well. So that's just one more thing, you know, to kind of think about. You know, we're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. the added benefit that you hadn't kind of figured out at that time when you were buying this.
Yeah.
It's like a bonus.
It was a bonus. Yeah.
Like the Seattle laws are allowing lots of ADUs and attached dwelling units and detached accessory dwelling units, which work for income if you want to rent it out, or work for extended family. Teenagers who want their own space. I mean, you can come up with all kinds of reasons, right? The brother who isn't holding it on his own and needs to come back and stay with his older brother and younger brother. Come up with a reason. Yeah. Well, it's amazing this is all like, worked out so well for you. It's just shows that, the journey can be completely different, right? But, at the end of the day, it's all completely worth it.
For sure. Yeah. For us, it's turned out that way, and we're really happy about that.
Yeah. I want to kind of wrap it up with a couple things, or maybe one is like, what's your favorite thing about Seattle? Go around the corner.
It's got to be Husky Stadium on a Saturday in the fall.
All right.
Love it. Oh, goodness. I think I'd have to say Lake Washington. I mean, I live close to Lake Washington, and I don't know, I love getting out there.
You mean this lake right behind
That
you?
one right
Lake
there.
Washington?
I don't know. I just think it's so
You live
unique.
like right over there on the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think it's so unique to have like such a large body of water in a city. I mean, and we're lucky to have several, but I don't know. Lake Washington just feels like such a. It's like the heartbeat of Seattle and the whole area. So
Yeah. How about you, buddy?
I would say that I love the diversity within the neighborhoods, that every neighborhood has its own kind of feel to it, both culturally, but just the way that it lives. Ballard lives different than Fremont, different than downtown, than Belltown, than View Ridge. So I think being able to, pop in between those neighborhoods, have different experiences easily, is nice.
Yeah. That's true. Every neighborhood has a different vibe, whether it's Seattle, Bellevue, the East Side.
Yeah.
I'm a big hiker and skier, which I'm actually not. But that is often an answer that a lot of people say, the hiking and the skiing and the outdoor activities. I like the restaurant diversity, the sushi, the bars, the different vibes you get in the neighborhood, the walkability. So I don't know. That's my favorite, guys.
I don't think your car's ever seen gravel, so.
It is every once in a while.
Every once in a while, you get lost.
Yeah, the
Just in case.
diversity in the neighborhoods. Yeah, that's close to the top of our list. In fact, whenever I'm hosting business colleagues from out of town, I'll try to get them out into the neighborhoods and talk to them about what's unique about Seattle. Like, you can go just a mile or so, and it can be a completely different feel with a different vibe and different restaurants, different types of restaurants, and it's fun.
And I think most people who don't live or have been to a lot of those areas in Seattle don't truly understand what we're talking about. I mean, they really, truly are like their own unique little villages, their own unique little cities. I can't really think of another place. Like, you go to Manhattan, okay? You go to like Hell's Kitchen. You go to
Manhattan.
No, but there's areas, but there's not a ton of them, right? In Manhattan, there's maybe I don't know 8. Here in Seattle, I mean, we've got probably 30 different distinct neighborhoods.
For sure.
Very distinct.
Yeah.
So all you folks in Manhattan, you better come to Seattle. Your budget works here as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Come enjoy our diversity. Love it. Oh, great. Well, thanks, guys. I mean, Mark, seriously, thank you for inviting us into your home. I mean,
beautiful.
This was really special for us to be here, and I think it's, the audience is going to really appreciate what they heard, and it's going to resonate with them. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. It's nice to have you here. You helped us get through this process, and so being here is special, and this was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, you guys know how to reach us. You can follow us, Wagner Real Estate Group, Seattle. Give us a call. We're here for you. Thanks.